So what gets you more excited? DJ equipment or the tracks that you play? I asked this question on Facebook. I'm kind of taking a poll. And granted, these are just the people who are following me on Facebook and saw the post. It was split, but leaning towards equipment. Equipment is what is exciting most people the most. They love new gear. There's no right or wrong answer, I guess, to be fair. There was a Disc Jockey News broadcast that I recorded on Tuesday. You may see it next week. You may see it on Arbor Day. I don't know when you're going to see the thing because it gets posted when it gets posted on Disc Jockey News. But I was having this conversation with Howie Darkstar and Jay Brannon. Now, Jay, as many of you know, is the Pioneer DJ guy. You know, when you think of Pioneer DJ, you think of Jay. I thought it would be an interesting question to ask him. And, you know, my argument was this. When I was coming up in the 80s, and granted, this is a long time ago, and this is old guy talk, and there's going to have to be some old guy talk in here to express my point. But we weren't talking so much about our equipment as we were records. We were talking about records. If you ran into another DJ and you got to go through their records to see what kind of records they had, I mean, that said a lot about who they were, you know, and what kind of stuff they played. This was the stuff that was exciting. I remember one time I came into some money, you know, I mean, a lot of money for a young guy like myself. And my mother's thinking, oh, you're going to save it for this or that. I went to the record store. I bought all kinds of stuff. And she was so disappointed in me. But they were things that I really wanted. And they were things that I thought would be really good to play at the club or to play at a mobile event. I don't even know if I was doing mobile events at the time, but it was stuff that I thought would just be good. And I never heard anybody play because they probably didn't have it, you know? So Jay says, well, yeah, but back in the old days, didn't you all kind of have a set of 1200s and a mixing board? No, we did not. In fact, the first time I used 1200s was probably at a mobile gig, I guess. We got a set. They weren't working right. But the first time I used a solid set of 1200s was when I started working at a club downtown. I was 21. And, you know, by that time I was pretty good on turntables because I had learned on some of the worst turntables known to man. Radio Shack made them. They were belt drive. They took a revolution and a half to spin up. They skated like crazy. It's hard to mix on those things, so you do your best and you get creative and you try to make the most interesting mix you can with what you have in front of you. But even with the crappy startup time and the skating of the needle and all of that stuff, records were still more important. When I came into money, that's what I spent it on. I didn't run out and buy gear. Why? I can play some crappy songs on great gear, or I could get some great songs and play it on crappy gear, I guess is the way I looked at it. That's what was important to me. That was my priority. And most people that I knew, that was their priority too. If you had great gear and great tracks, you were elite. You were a rich kid, or you were an incredibly successful DJ. Back then, you know, that was unheard of. I knew people with great equipment who didn't have great tracks, and we all kind of laughed at them. Those of us who had the great tracks just made it work. And then I'm thinking about, you know, some of the pioneers in our business, not Pioneer DJ, but the people who kind of laid the groundwork for us. You know, I'm thinking about the guys in the South Bronx back in the old days who were tapping into electrical lines on light poles to get power to play in the park. And Grandmaster Flash, who was creating things on his mixing board that nobody had, this thing he called Peekaboo, it's Q, all right? He built this into his mixer because there was nothing to buy like that. And it was very DIY. You just kind of made stuff work. You got that music out there any way you could. And of course, if you had great equipment, you could get it out there in a cooler way sometimes. Sometimes it didn't matter. Sometimes the audience had no idea. Now, fast forward to today. Is gear important to me? Yeah, it is. But there's a limit. I've got some speakers I'm real happy with that work really well for the types of events that I do. And as a disabled person, they set up real nice. I love the coverage. I've got a good mixing board. It's not new. It's probably 5 years old or more, but I like it. I'm using decent quality files in a program to play these tracks. So the audience is getting a really good listening experience, sonically. It sounds good, but musically, it sounds good too, because ultimately music is more important to me than the gear. I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't want to cause anybody discomfort from my speaker system or my mixer settings or the files that I'm playing. That is important to me, but I think it takes second place to the actual tracks I'm playing. It's just who I am, And if you're not that person, that's okay. It's an observation that you make when you've been engaged with DJs from around the world for 15 years on social media like I have with these YouTube videos, and you hear different points of view, and there's no right or wrong. It's not that. So I don't want to make it sound like it is. But, perhaps somebody from my generation may find music more important than the equipment. Maybe a person who already has fantastic equipment and it sounds good and they're able to mix on it. Maybe it's weird to me that they're drooling over the Rev 7 because they already have everything that I feel like they should need to present these great tracks. But maybe the tracks aren't as important to them as the equipment. It's okay to want things. It really is. But to put so much importance on it is weird. And, most of the conversations that DJs have is about equipment. I don't hear a lot of conversations about music. That's weird to me. I mean, look at my YouTube videos, for example. The production on this stuff is not fantastic. It's very vloggy. It's very punk. This camera is 10 years old. Could I use a new camera? Yeah, but you know what? This one works, and I'm not camera horny. I'm not out there looking at the new camera and really aspiring to do that. I'm more worried about getting content out, and content that I think is cool. Maybe different than what other people are putting out. I'm not doing a lot of gear stuff. I do gear stuff when I have it, and I can show it to you. But yeah, just kind of talking about music and presentation and things like that. That's what I want to do. That's what turns me on, more so than a new camera. Anyway, quick video for you. Something to think about. What do you think? Are you more into equipment or music? What's the balance? Let us know in the comments section. Practice and enjoy.